looking forward.
Good evening and welcome along to another episode of Not Another Rangers podcast. So guess who's back? Back again. Rangers are back. Tell a friend. The carryout is purchased. The man cave is primed and ready. But the key question remains, will the Rangers be ready? It's been a turbulent summer and expectation has been tempered. But are the club double bluffing us? It was Bill Struth who said, never fear. Inevitably, we shall have our years of failure, and when they arrive, we must reveal tolerance and sanity. No matter the days of anxiety that come our way, we shall emerge stronger because of the trials to be overcome. Let the battle fever commence for another season, and delighted to say joining me on the podcast this evening is Mr. Scott Kerr. We've got Willie from RFC Updates and the legend himself, JD. Fellas, how are we, Scott?
I'm all right, Davey. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to these two mates again.
Wally, how's yourself, mate?
I wasn't that bothered about them all, but now that you've said all that, I'm fucking buzzing, to be honest.
JD, how's yourself, mate?
When you done that Eminem thing, guess who's back? I thought you were going to say Shady, and I was going to say, that's bang out the order, calling Wally Shady.
We got a lot worse, to be fair, so it's absolutely fine.
No, I'm the same. I've said delighted that everybody's joining us in the comments. So let's get stuck right into it. Kerr, I think we were all surprised this morning, if we're being honest, that Philippe Clement was revealed to have signed a contract extension taking him to the summer of 2028. It certainly took me by surprise. I've never really been one that's bought into the ethos that you, not necessarily that you're not rewarding success, but ultimately, if you don't win a league title at Rangers, I class that as failure, regardless of who's in charge. So did this morning's news catch you by surprise?
It did. Listen, it's a bit premature for me, I have to say. I think he's still had a couple of years left, didn't he? I mean, has he maybe been pressured into it because Belgium were mentioned before and maybe thought I need to tie him up a bit? I don't know. But I don't like these 3 and 4 year deals. I don't know why we just go down the years rolling contract. Maybe that doesn't suit Clement, but it only takes a bad couple of months and then people are going to be shouting for him to leave. So hopefully it's not. But listen, he was under contract for another couple of years, so I think he could have waited to see how this season went. But it's been done now, so hopefully it's the right choice at the end of the day.
Willie, you're obviously well in with the youth setup at Ibrox, but did this news catch you by surprise this morning? I think the way I look at it as well is I think nobody was expecting this.
No.
I mean, as Kerr alluded to, he had a contract that was taking him to the summer of 2027 anyway. So to say that he's here for another year, it's been classed as a 4-year contract or whatever. So the way I'm looking at that is Clement must have some sort of pay rise to go along with that as well.
Well, normally when you get a new contract, it does involve a pay rise, so you would imagine that's probably true. It is a bit strange. I mean, he's only been here, what's that, about 10 months, 11 months, something like that. So it's unusual when you've already signed a 4-year deal to sign a 1-year extension to that within a year. I mean, obviously, we don't know what's happened. Maybe there was an offer there and, Rangers have felt the need to improve his contract. It's really hard to know. It's unusual to see it happen. That's what I would say. So you would imagine something's happened behind the scenes for Rangers to feel the need to give him that extension, because, I mean, why not just give him a 3-year extension and make it a 6-year deal? So what's the point of the one? Because all you're really doing is covering the year that he's already been here. So I'm not really too sure. It certainly did catch me off guard, to be honest.
JD, I think Wally's speaking for us all there when he says it caught us off guard. But let's analyse it in depth. Philippe Clement did come in. he did win a League Cup. He's had 4 games against Celtic and he hasn't won any of them. When you are the Rangers manager, if you don't win the battle in Glasgow, let alone the league title, that adds significant pressure. So John Bennett said in his interview during the week that the Rangers board were all in with Clement. The contract extension obviously signifies that. But if things go pear-shaped, if we not put ourselves all in on a gamble that might not pay off?
Well, I think you're spot on. Like, we are all in on a gamble here. And I've changed since this morning. This morning I was a bit like, why? Now I'm like, right, let's just get behind him. But I said it, Dave, if we end this season and he's 8-0 against Celtic, he can. I don't know if he can survive that. Honestly, don't think a Rangers man 8-0 against Celtic survives that. So, and then we're going to need to pay him more money. So there's definitely something in the background. And I think what Kerr's saying, there's definitely legs. I think there's legs in this Belgium story. It came from anywhere maybe, but I don't know. But I'm going to get behind them. But we need to beat Celtic. And I know it's no beat Celtic, we still lose the league. Honestly, I said this on Twitter this morning. I think a lot of people were agreeing, and that's the first on Twitter with me. But I don't know if we're kind of writing this season off. To not, because what did we give Gerrard till his 3rd season? Are we sitting here, right? We're going to give Clement the Gerrard style rebuild, which was last season almost. That counts as one, right? Even though he didn't get the first transfer window. Get this season by, and then see where next season takes us. So it's almost like maybe we might need to suck up 8-0 against Celtic, but that'll be a tough one to take. He needs to get something against Celtic, even if it means, and this is sick, that at the end of the season it doesn't work out for us, but still shows that we can push them.
No, I think you make a great point there. And in regards to what Smoke said as well, obviously it's not necessarily being negative, but you have to weigh up 2 sides of the coin. You can't just analyse it single-minded. You know, I think we would all be one for supporting the Rangers manager, and we would all be one for supporting the Rangers board. But as much as we put all in as fans, they have to give you something back to cling on to as well. You just can't keep, worshipping a false messiah, if that's what you say. However, Kerr, in terms of looking forward to the season, it would seem that Clement must have some sort of assurance in regards to transfers between now and the end of the window, because you look at that squad, you analyse it, there's some youth team prospects on the periphery, but in terms of depth, we lack significant depth. I always say, if you're going to have a squad, you must have at least 2 players for every position, and we're way short of that. So do you think Clement has got those assurances?
He must have something, Davey. He must have something. He's been told he can bring in a couple more guys he wants in through the door, but he probably also knows he has to maybe let go some guys. I still think the squad's too heavy with players that we're not going to use. There's still guys here who earn a lot of money who's not going to probably feature. Hadji, Campbell, I know he said he's giving Campbell another opportunity, but will Todd take that? Or will Todd just say, no, I'm away, because basically he just doesn't like the manager? I don't really know what will happen. Plus, if he comes back and doesn't play well, the fans are constantly going to be on his case as well. So I think probably better that Todd goes elsewhere. It's hard for the manager. He is trying to build it. We can see he's trying to build it off the park. And you can see what he's trying to do, which is great. But it's on the park I'm worried about, because I feel we still lack structure, we still lack patterns of play, and we still lack a bit of fight at times. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. I like Clement, I have to say I do, but yourself, it takes us to the end of September, and we've been done in a few times in the park. Things can change, so hopefully we can get a few players in, but I still say we probably need more out than we do bringing in.
Kerr, can I just ask you, what did he say about Cantwell? Because I missed that.
He just said he's went back to him and said he's got an opportunity to come back and play. If he wants to take it, it's up to him now. I still think Clement done the dirty on him and threw him under the bus as soon as he arrived, but I don't know what's on behind the scenes. That's just the way I see it. So some players will say, oh, maybe bite the bullet, JD, and come and say, I'm going to prove you wrong. But I don't think that's Todd's character. I think he'd rather just walk away and go elsewhere.
It's kind of like him walking out the press conference and walking back in to say the thing about Todd. Now he's helped Todd, he's not involved. Now he's went back to Todd. I don't know. That's annoyed me, that one. I never listened to the full interview, so I missed that bit. But that's very weird again by Clement, by the way.
No, I agree with you, JD. I think the whole summer has been the weirdest summer that I can remember in my living lifetime in terms of Rangers and how we conduct our business. Willie, taking the manager in isolation here, what are you looking forward to cling on to in terms of like a sign of hope or a positive aspect this season? I think Kerr makes a fair point, is to say that we don't have a sense of identity in terms of how a Philip Clement side is going to play. But do you think he's maybe been hamstrung so far, but the vast majority of the signings have been Michael Beale and as far back to the Steven Gerrard era, and we need to give him time to make it a fully Philip Clement Rangers side?
Yeah, because I think if you listen to how he talks about a style and the high press and the work ethic, I think he's looking for a younger team that's maybe more energetic, that's going to press a bit higher, that's going to do a little bit more off the ball. I've never been a big pre-season fan. I actually spoke to Kerr. We met up recently in Greg's, unsurprisingly, because I like a sausage roll. And we kind of spoke about it. I don't really ever take much from pre-season. I just think like the players are there to get fit. So the rest of it to me is just like what really matters is tomorrow at Tynecastle. See if we turn up and get beat 3-0, the manager's going to get absolutely annihilated because that's how it is. If we turn up tomorrow and come away from Tynecastle with a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win, I don't really care. As long as you get the win, you know. I think we're going to see a different system for what we've seen in pre-season. I don't know why. I've got a funny feeling that what he said today made me think that we're not going to stick to what we've done previously. Maybe something like a 4-2-2-2 or a 4-2-3-1 that's maybe Lawrence a bit higher up the pitch next to Dessers or something. I don't know. I've just got a funny feeling we're going to do something different until we can get all the players available to the manager that he wants. Because I still don't think we're going to see Danilo start again for several weeks. I still don't think he's close. I really like the look of Proper. I had a good look at some of his videos, and he just looks like exactly the type of signing we needed as a centre half. And I hate the fact he's a handsome bastard because that just irritates me more, honestly. But we still need a number 6. I think that's kind of clear to most people. Whether that's maybe an opportunity for Bailey Rice or whether we go out and add a 6, I don't know. And I think it's clear to most people that if an adequate offer comes in for Cyril Dessers, he's going to move on. And then it's a matter of bringing in potentially 1 or 2 more strikers. So there's still a hell of a lot of work to be done, mate. And we're into August and we're trying to qualify for the Champions League. We're trying to start the season off well. It's maybe one of these periods where we just need to batten down the hatches and just see what we can get in the next month for football, really.
Dave, I just want to ask Willie something. Willie, I was watching Andy Halliday the other night on the podcast, and he was talking about Lennon Muller. And he was saying Lennon Muller's worth £4 million. Now, I know you've had not a pot, but you've had a wee argument with some fans in the past about Bailey Rice.
Mm-hmm.
So if Lennon Muller's worth £4 million, how good is Bailey Rice compared to Lennon Muller? Are they both on par? Is Bailey a better player? I know Lennon's been given a chance in the first team, whereas Bailey hasn't, and that's probably why folks see him more. But
yeah, look, the one thing that I can't argue is that Lennon Muller played like 40, 50 games for Motherwell. So I can't argue that. If Bailey Rice had stayed at Motherwell, he might have played 40 or 50 games, and Rangers would be wanting to sign him this summer.
100%.
From my point of view, right, I've watched Bailey now for nearly 2 years. I think Bailey is an exceptional footballer. He's got a great range of passing. The way that he views a pass, the way that he sees a pass, his movement, it's all very good. We just need to be strong enough and show enough courage to put the 17-year-old Bailey Rice in the team. Because let's be honest about it, what are we going to lose? See if most people think we're shit, what's the harm in putting Bailey Rice in the team and seeing what he can bring? Because at the end of the day, I don't know how many people are old enough, but I mean, Barry Ferguson was going to leave Rangers if he didn't get his opportunity towards the end of that season under Walter Smith before Advocat took over. I mean, there was strong chat that Barry Ferguson was going to leave because, like, Walter Smith just didn't really give him a chance to play. So
I think what you're saying there, Willie, if I remember right back to the time, is did Rangers no agree a fee with Dundee United at the time in regards to Barry Ferguson when Walter Smith was still
there was certainly strong chat at the time that if Barry Ferguson didn't get a chance to play in the latter part of the season, he was going to leave. Now, like, obviously, we don't know how true that is. Only Barry Ferguson could probably confirm that story now after all these years. But see if Advocat hadn't come in as manager that summer and taken over and made Barry Ferguson one of the star attractions, would Barry Ferguson have went on to have the same career? Now, we don't know these things. These are very much judgments. But see, for me, I think that Bailey Rice could bring something to the team. And if he's on the bench against Hearts, I think that's a step forward in the right direction for him. I think we've been culpable of wasting young players at Rangers, and I've made that point before. I think when I look at Alex Lowry, I know some of the fault might be Alex's as well, right? Because there is a work ethic thing with Alex at times. But there's no doubt that Alex has got unbelievable technical ability. But we've just never been able to get the best out of him. But the same can be said for Todd Cantwell, that he's got unbelievable ability, but we've never been able to consistently get that football level out of him. So I'll always cause a stir on Twitter because I think Lennon Miller's a really good player, but I would rather we promoted guys from within our academy. That was my main point, rather than having a pop at Lennon Miller, who I do think is a good footballer, right? But we spent a lot of time and a lot of money getting Bailey Rice. So let's see what he can do. Let's get him in the first team. Let's see what he can provide on the pitch, because until he does that, we're not really going to know how good he really is.
I'm all for Bailey Rice starting. I've said it. I said it last week. I think the issue we have is that Lennon Miller's say they were the same level. They played in the same youth teams, didn't they, Willie? So they're probably their best pals. What I hear, but playing first team football for a season and a bit, Lennon Miller's went like that now, and I see a lot of people saying that Lennon Miller's not. Listen, Lennon Miller is the best young Scottish prospect out there right now, hands down. My wee worry, I said this last week, I think a lot of our young boys these days, they need that kind of nurturing and that arm around me. Cantwell similar, I know he's a bit maturer, but he needs somebody to love him and tell him he's amazing. Clemont's not that type of manager. Lowry probably needs somebody to love him and tell him he's amazing. Clemont's not that type of manager. My worry with Clemont is that maybe is a wee bit more old school and doesn't trust youth as much as what like an Advocate came in, takes Ferguson, you're playing. And I argued with somebody else. If Bailey Rice is that good at 17, whether you think it's ready or no, you can't but no play him. So my worry with Clement is he stubborn that he's not going to do it? Because sometimes I've seen Bailey Rice been on the bench and then you don't see him for weeks on end, and I'm like, give the boy a chance. And I just worry that Clement's not going down. And it'll still. Oh, but what about McCausland? McCausland was a first team player when Clement came in. Clement's not really brought MD else in. As he had boys on the bench at the end of the season, or like Robbie and Cole and that, but not really brought a boy in and subbed him on every game like he does with McCausland because he thinks McCausland's a first team player. Yeah.
And that's where like sort of football is all about opinions. You know, and this is, I mean, I think as I've said to Kerr, he's obviously been in the environment in terms of the scouting stuff. Like, you can sit in a room with 3 other scouts who's watching the same game and 2 guys will have a totally different opinion to you. So, I mean, that's the nature of football. See, if Rangers were to sign Lennon Miller, I would be very happy. But what I'm saying is, we've also got a lot of good young players in our academy. As one of the guys is talking about there with Finlay Curtis, who's a really good goal-scoring midfield player. So, see, to me, like, the only way we'll ever know if these guys are good enough is by playing them and be given an opportunity. Now, Ross McCausland's contract was running out last season, and most people you spoke to at the academy thought that Ross was going to leave at the end of the season. And then Stephen Davis gave him that opportunity to play. And then obviously Clement kept him in the team. He then scored in Europe. He then scored at Ibrox. He then scored a great goal at Tynecastle. He then get capped by his country. So how will we ever actually know if anybody's good enough without giving them the opportunity to play? And my worry with somebody like Bailey in particular is that if we don't do that soon, I think he'll want to leave. And to me, that would be sad because he has a great young talent.
Can I play devil's advocate a wee bit here? Curry had brought up a point earlier on in regards to, was it worrying at the press conference today that Clement had openly admitted that of the 6 players that left, he wanted to keep a few of them, but Rangers just couldn't afford them. So if you take that and analyse that, is that really showing a pathway to our youth players? Because if you look at Lundstrom and Barisic as being two of the prime examples, I'm not going to bring Ryan Jack into it because Ryan Jack had a horrendous injury record. You discount Ryan Jack, he was never readily available, whereas Barisic and Lundstrom for the vast majority of their time have been pretty much fit for Rangers. They decided to go elsewhere. For me, that's a worry because see, if you looked at Barisic, for example, on his trips to Celtic Park, Parkhead, whatever you call it. I apologise to Wolf Marshall if he's watching. But the thing about Barisic is he showed fear. And for me, a young player into the team, coming into the team that's new to it, if we take Bailey Rice as an example, he's not going to show any fear. There's an onus on him to impress. He knows that he's coming through with a reputation that everybody's talking about his name, not only at youth football level, but at international youth football level as well. So he's coming with this reputation. It's on him to come and impress. So do you think that's a fair argument, Willie, that Clement has to concede to that? Or is it the pressure for the stands that puts him off? Because we've seen how guys like Tav react to fan pressure, Scott Wright and the likes. Does he think that's too much for a young guy to take that on his shoulders?
See, to be honest, like, having watched Bailey now for a few years, I don't think Bailey would care. I think he's quite a chilled out guy, Bailey. Whenever you see him, he seems quite relaxed, doesn't really seem to get too up nor too down. It's really difficult to know how anybody will cope in that environment until they're in it. You know, this is the thing when you speak to some of the guys who have made it into the first team and like they're loving the dream. These guys are loving the dream. You know, they're playing for Rangers, they're playing for the club they supported as a young boy. They're doing something that all four of us would have loved to have done. So I think sometimes the stuff that you see online is really poor. I think some of the abuse that's handed out to players these days is ridiculous. But it's the nature of social media. And for me, if I was a young player, I wouldn't be on social media now. If you're playing football at a top club, I wouldn't be on social media. Because the people that are criticising you, it's not really worth your time thinking about it. Because your main job's to do your talking on the pitch. So everything else is just noise around that. And I think that's a bigger thing now within football. And I think it's really sad because people should be able to reach out to young players and say, how did you make it at Rangers? What did you do to improve your game? But a lot of young players are only going to interact with people now because when you do that, there'll just be like 1,000 comments underneath it that's abuse towards them. And I think that's what's really, really sad. And for young players, it's just about focusing on the job in hand, which is making it at the club you're at. And some players will make it, some players won't. But in Bailey's case, I do think he is good enough to make it at Rangers if he is given that opportunity to play.
Can I jump in, Davey? Sorry. See, on Bailey, right? I could speak about that to the coos come home. See the emergence of Lennon Miller at 17, right? Is Bailey a year? Is he a year older than Lennon Miller? Or is he still 17 and all?
No, Bailey's 17. I don't think he's 18 until October, mate.
So Lennon Miller's proven that a 17-year-old who's good enough can play in the SPL, right? So maybe Bailey isn't ready, or Clement doesn't think he's ready. Why are we not going to Motherwell or going to somebody else and saying, going to take this boy and play him? And he'll play because he's good enough. And then we then have the next Lennon Miller in our hands after what a season playing first team Fitbit is. So it's weird that maybe this is a season. Maybe it might happen, or maybe in January it happens. But if Bailey is in about the first team, what I don't want to see him is going back and playing random games against who knows what with the B team. But play in the first team training, on the bench, get on, might not go on. Come January, if you're not playing much, right, let's get Bailey out to, I don't know, St Mirren or even Motherwell. Get him a half season under his belt, because if he's that good enough, he will play. And then you come back and you go, like, wait now, if he played with Motherwell, we'd buy him now. So we just take him back. So that's going to be
look, mate, it's one of those arguments that you could debate for hours. I mean, I think it was about 6 months ago, a year ago, somebody said to me, hey, Leon King's too small to be a centre-back. I was like, well, he's 6'2", 6'3". That's the kind of normal height for a centre-half. Like the centre-half we've signed, I think it's like 6'2". So I think sometimes the argument about young players and not being given an opportunity, like folk always seem to want to pick up a negative rather than talk positively about a young player. And to me, that's one of the issues we've got. And my fear is if we start this season off poorly, what's that going to do to a Diamandi? What's it going to do to a Cortez? What's it going to do to a Connor Barron? Because we need to build a team around these young players. So we need to give these young players like confidence to go out in the pitch and win games of football. Standing there shouting abuse at them for 60, 70 minutes isn't going to achieve that. Do you know? And I think we're going to have our ups and downs this season with some of the young players. But the biggest thing for me is just sticking by him. I mean, I've been quite open for the outset. I've said it to Kerr privately as well. I think Diamandi is an unbelievable player. I really do think that kid is probably one of our best signings in the last 10 or 15 years. I think he's got so much quality. And I think if we can get him on the ball in the right areas of the pitch, he could be the difference in so many games this season. I don't know if other guys feel the same way, but I really do think that Diamandi is going to be a top player for us. And from what I've seen so far, I'm very excited to watch him play this season in a slightly different system, and it might allow him to get higher up the pitch more.
I think that's a great segue, Willie, because what I was going to come on to was the starting 11 tomorrow. So we know that Dujon Sterling is not fit enough and isn't going to make it. We know that Czerny said in his press conference today that he's not fit enough to start games at the moment. So how do we think that we're going to line up, Kerr, if I can take it to you first? Because I think there's scope there for potentially one of these young guys, whether it be Bailey Rice or Cole McKinnon, to possibly play their way into the selection. I know in pre-season, the vast majority of it, he's went with Barron, Diamandi and Lawrence in front, but I don't know if Tom Lawrence has got the legs to play in these games, especially away from home. And the way I analyse it is that I think Diamandi, as Willie alluded to, is our best player. So do we not want him higher up the pitch and somebody behind him to allow him to impose himself on the opponent? What's your take on it?
Listen, if Clement started Bailey Rice tomorrow with Barron and Diamandi, I'd be happy. I think that's our best seer at this moment in time. But he's going to start Tom Lawrence. Now, Tom Lawrence, as you know, is a really good football player, but he's not got the legs to get back, and the way he plays them, it's more top fuel. So when teams do break on, and sometimes you see the space they've got to break in, because Barron has got legs, so has Diamandi, but they like to go forward as well. We've not got anybody sitting just in front of the two centre backs, so they're having to cover. And if the full backs push up, they get caught out as well. We've seen with Tav and we've seen with Ridvan. So I think it's hard. I think the manager's going to make us more tighter. I think he's going to make us more hard to break down, because the goals you've conceded in pre-season have been a joke. I mean, it's not been hard to score against us, Davey, and it's tomorrow. Hearts have got somebody up top who everybody's constantly talking about, but they've got somebody up top who we know, give them two chances, will definitely score one of them. So we have to be tighter. It doesn't matter who we're playing, we have to be tighter. We've seen some of the goals at the end of last season. Teams are just running through the centre, by everybody. So we've got to be tighter. And Bailey sitting there would protect us, because he's a very good footballer. It doesn't matter his age. I'm fed up with the argument saying he's only 17 or he's 26 or youth players or experienced players. See if he can play football, give him a game. See if he doesn't play well, then you drop him a game. But you're never going to know with these guys in half an hour, as they're going to tell you much. You need a consistent one in the team. And I'd rather see some of these guys get a consistent one in the team than some of the guys who have let us down the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
JD, do you think that there'll be a curveball in the selection tomorrow? As Willie alluded to earlier, he thinks that he might do something different. Can you see it? Is there a name that you could put that nobody's really thinking about that might start at Tynecastle tomorrow?
I don't. I think the team picks itself. See the one you put up with CGM there. I'd probably swap Davies for Balogun, and that would be my team. That wouldn't be my team, right? But I think that will be the team. I think Balogun will probably start before Davies, hopefully. I don't know. By the way, somebody said that there. What about Cantwell? As he went to Cantwell, Cantwell's went, well, you know what? Let's go. Cantwell went back on the bench tomorrow, out of nowhere. That might happen. I know what keep going there and harking over the youth, because we've done this for years, but I would love to see Bailey Rice get involved, and I would just Diamandi into 10, Rice in. We've just looked so weak in every pre-season game running through us. So the only thing is, he said as well, we will only be up to speed to December, like November, December. Like, does that mean that he's saying off the record, I'm going to change my system, and it's going to take us in November and December to get used to it? Because let's be honest, he played the same system, the same way ever since he came in. So we know we play the 4-2-1, 4 whatever it is, right? 4-2-1-3. 4-2-1-3, aye. But But will he change it then to a new system? That's why he's telling us it's going to take to maybe November, December till he's really settle in. But I don't know. I don't think he will change it, and I think that team at CGM probably is going to be the team, and I think that's going to be the team for the foreseeable, unless somebody like Bailey comes in, makes an impression, and keeps his jersey. But I doubt it.
Do we not think that maybe the international clearance thing is a double bluff? Because obviously nobody's mentioned Proper is starting tomorrow. I don't think Rangers would sign a player knowing with the SPFL registration that they couldn't get it done before the first game of the season. I think it's something that we're missing, and I'm kind of hoping, Wally, that he will start tomorrow. But there's a guy that Kerr's been talking about all pre-season on this channel in regards to Cole McKinnon. Now, you've seen a lot of Cole McKinnon over the last year or so, Wally. What, for me, in terms of all the young boys coming through, he, to me, strikes me as having the best physicality of them. You know, he's got a proper build. He looks like a man amongst boys when he's playing with the younger guys, and I think that's something that we don't see much. If you compare him to Alex Lowry, it's like night and day in terms of physical appearance. So, one, there's been mooted rumours in the summer that, you know, he could be moulded into a right back. I don't subscribe to that, because I think you should always play your natural position. But two, what is his preferred position, and would you think he's got any chance of making it in this Rangers side?
Well, he's a central midfield player. I mean, that is his position. But then, Robbie Fraser was a central midfield player for a long time, and Rangers seen something in him that they wanted to move him to left back, and he's ended up having a pretty good career up until now as a left back. So, who's to say that Cole couldn't turn into being a full back? He's certainly got a great engine, Cole. He's up and down the pitch really well. He's very physical. He's one of those guys that's certainly not afraid to put in a tackle. It's interesting. I think tomorrow, if Proper's paperwork comes through in time, I think he plays. I think it'll be him and Suter. I think will play. And I think the reason Suter plays is because he's a better ball player. And I think at Tynecastle we'll want to try and keep possession a lot more. I think that'll be what it is. I think it'll be Barron and Diamande, Cortez and Scott Wright. I know people will be screaming Blue Murder now, but I think Scott Wright will play. And I think Lawrence and Dessers will play up top. I've just got a funny feeling he's going to push Lawrence higher up the pitch. See, because of what he did in Berlin, where when he was higher up the pitch, he got into the box more and he scored 2 really good goals. I think we'll see Lawrence and Dessers almost as a front two, or maybe Lawrence just sitting in behind Dessers. But at the end of the day, the manager could totally surprise us and do something totally off the cuff, because at the end of the day, we've probably not had a chance to play what maybe some people think is our best 11 in pre-season. Because Tav's missed games because he was injured. He only played the last 1 and a bit games. Dujon Stelling's been injured. People would argue that Danilo's better than Dessers, and we've not really seen enough of Danilo. Let's just wait and see what the team is tomorrow. I mean, I'll just be coming home from work because I'm working to 12 o'clock, so I'll either be quite happy when I'm leaving work, or I'll be swearing at somebody when I'm leaving my work. So it'll be interesting to see what the manager does. And let's be honest, but no matter what 11 he picks, there's going to be people that aren't happy with it, because that's where we are. And the fact that he's basically said that Vaclav isn't 100% ready to start, that probably tells you that it is going to be Scott Wright that's going to play on one side and Cortez on the other, because he's already spoke about how he wants width. So I think you can almost guarantee that those two guys are the players that are going to give us width to start the game. But maybe that means that Czerny can come off the bench and impact the game. Maybe Danilo can come off the bench and impact the game. Maybe a Bailey Rice can come off the bench and impact the game. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but we just need to wait to see who plays. But I think if Proper's international clearance comes through, I fully expect him to play, because I think throwing him into the Dynamo Kiev game away from home would be a big ask, given that he's maybe not played at centre-half next to any of these players up until now. So I think we need to play him at Tynecastle to see how he's going to get on. But I do think he is a nice signing for us, and I think for 1.5 million, if that is the quoted fee, I think we've done really well to get that bit of business done, to be honest.
No, I think that's a great point that you make there, Wally. But there's something that you mentioned there that I want to touch upon, Scott, and that was that Willie mentioned James Tavernier. Now, we spoke about this last week, and we mentioned the fact that there was newspaper stories that broke throughout the summer that he had been stripped to the captaincy and that he was on his road out to Ibrox. Now, Rangers obviously done the Rangers thing that they do and put that video out on Rangers TV with the one-to-one sit-down interview with Tav, and he said all the sort of things that you would expect a captain to say that suggests that he's staying here for the long term, or at least the foreseeable for his contract. But given how he's played this summer, is that no a worry for you? One, that he doesn't look up to speed, but two, he's on a sort of a vast decline the last 4 or 5 months of last season that seems to have continued, and we've lost the same amount of goals that we've always lost. How do we address that? Is he good enough to start for Rangers week after week?
At the moment, probably not. Just the way he finished the season, the way he started. And listen, we all kind of agree Tav's legs have went, and that was one of his strengths, getting up and down the park. Not only wasn't he always the best at defensive duties, but getting up and down the park, getting involved into the game. I mean, he dug deep for us a lot of times, David, in the past, and he's got his back into games, but he can't always do that. A lot of times, the players are wanting Tavernier to get us out of a hole, and he done it at times for us. But we all got older, and he's done the same. His legs are starting to go. I think that's why Sterling was fit, he'd probably started. But listen, we can't seem to rely on Sterling as well. His fitness and his injury record isn't great for a young guy. So it looks like we can maybe be looking for another right back. But as long as Tav's at the club and he's fit and Sterling's not, I think he's going to be playing at right back. I think Clermont's not really got a lot of choice, rather than maybe putting Balogun there or bringing Adam Devine in. So I think Tav starts, and we're going to maybe Scott Wright's going to have to do more defensive duties to maybe cover for him. But I think that's the way it's going to look at the moment.
Willie, I'm just going to come back to you just now because I know you're sort of stuck for time and you're working early tomorrow. On behalf of all the guys here tonight, we'd like to thank you for making an appearance. It's great to get that insight to the club that we don't see at youth level, and I think it helps educate the whole fan base, because I don't think the club do enough in terms of promoting that to the wider fan base, so we know the sort of inner sanctum of the youth. But everything that you do on Twitter, it's much appreciated, and I'd just like to thank you on behalf of all the guys for coming on. But in closing, where do you stand with James Tavernier in terms of just before you go? How do you see that plan out? Because for me, it's very weird that the media seem to have this story that he was on the road out, and then that's came to nothing.
Yeah, look, I think just in general at the start of the summer, was the season at the end, I think most people thought maybe, this was the time to go.
Sorry, Willie. I think you're struggling, like your sound's underwater. I don't know if we're able to fix that.
There's a special word that made it fix it backstage. Was there no?
There you go. Is that anyway?
There you go.
There you go. Look, I've always been a huge James Tavernier fan. Massive, to be honest, fan of his. Whether it was this injury that he was carrying with the hip flexor, I don't know. But I suppose we'll just need to see what happens at Tynecastle. I mean, that's the reality of it. I don't know if anybody really knows what we're going to see from him. But see, a fully fit James Tavernier is a very good player, but we just don't know where he is in terms of his legs, in terms of the minutes he's played. He's obviously had a shorter pre-season than I think the manager would have liked, but I think we're just guessing. To be honest, we don't really know what we're going to get tomorrow, whether that's from James Tavernier, whether that's from the starting 11. We're just going to have to see how the 90-plus minutes go, mate, to be honest with you.
No, I think you're spot on there. And I'd just like to say, on behalf of myself and Kerr, thanks very much for coming on tonight, Willie. Don't be a stranger, and we hope to see you again on here very soon. So, hope you get an easy shift tomorrow, mate.
I hope it is an easy shift, and I come home to the game and we play really well. That's what I want. I just want us to go and play well and win the game. I just want a wee bit of confidence to go into the Kiev game, because clearly that's going to be extremely difficult over the two legs against a very good team. So a wee bit of confidence by winning at Tynecastle would certainly do the players the world of good. And I think the support needs a wee bit of positivity as well to start off the season, because when Rangers are winning, we're all a wee bit happier. So let's hope that we get the result we need at Tynecastle tomorrow.
Absolutely, Willie. So thanks very much for joining us, mate. And
Cheers, mate.
all the best to you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. See you later. Cheers.
JD, James Tavernier, is he an enigma in the way that, you know, Cyril Dessers is in terms of the drop-off in his performance? Because let's be honest, James Tavernier isn't the James Tavernier 2-3 seasons ago of Europa League final fame. That there has been a physical drop-off in terms of pace, physicality. He seems to be getting caught out a lot down the sides, and teams are targeting him. I said during the week that the Ross County game towards the end of last season, the 3 goals all come down that side. And if Ross County are targeting the Rangers captain, how can that sustain going forward?
That's embarrassing. And when clubs are targeting a Rangers player, that means they're no good enough to play for Rangers. I think his time's up, but we leaked the story. The story was leaked that he wasn't going to be captain. Now, that's a true story, by the way. Like, listen, we know the sources are really good. They've also had to go back on that. Either he never the buyer, he didn't want to budge, or whatever's happened. So now he is the captain. He is here. He hasn't looked good during pre-season. He didn't look good probably after Christmas last year. He has still scored a lot of important goals and done, I say important goals for 3 points, no important goals that win you trophies. So we need to distinguish him scoring important goals that mean you win leagues and titles to winning a game, which that 3 points meant nothing. But it was time for change this year. I don't think it's happened. I think we might need probably for another season, unless his performances go so far downhill. It could be the Mora and then Kiev, and then Sterling's in. The plan might be Sterling's the right back all along, and then Tav might go on the last day of the transfer window or something like that. But right now, I don't think he's good enough to be playing, but he's our captain, and it pains me to go against our captain.
No, I think that's the last sentence that you said there. We think of Rangers captains, and through, I would like to think, our lifetimes, we can go back to Terry Butcher into Richard Gough into obviously Brian Laudrup for that short spell, and then Lorenzo Amoruso into Barry Ferguson into Stefan Klos, Craig Moore, and then back to Barry Ferguson, Fernando Rickson, and so on and so forward. And we just don't have that identity about us, the new care, in terms of the mantra, I think, what we perceive a Rangers captain to be. And when you're physically on the decline, you have to, join that up with years and years of failure. And failure in terms of no winning the big trophies can be acceptable going forward. And I know people question that we're in a period of transition, but how long are you supposed to be in a period of transition? We were top of the mountain, 3 years ago, and in a position of strength. And we had a squad that had 2 players for every position. We've thrown that away through bad business and bad sort of player trading models and hanging on to players for too long. So we've nobody else to blame but ourselves. So how do we get ourselves back there? Is it a changing in the guard that's needed? What's your take on it?
It probably is, Davey. I think if you're going to players too long, look at Al McGregor. I think he played a season too long as well, didn't he? But listen, Tavernier's there because the manager's obviously told him he still wants him to be there. But sometimes a player has to look at himself and think, can he still do the stuff he's done previously? And I think he is struggling. I remember Gary Neville saying it on Sky when he was playing for United against somebody, and he says, after he was beat a couple of times, he's thought, my legs are away. I can't play at this level anymore. And after the game, he told the manager, listen, I'll have to quit because I can't play at this level. And he did. So Tavernier's got to either decide, a couple of bad performances, can he still play at this level? And probably the answer could be no. Listen, he could put them more on surprises all, but my feeling the answer could be no. So does he go somewhere else and get a fresh challenge, maybe a slower league, a slower type of football? I don't know. He has been a great servant, and I will say it's not all been Tavernier's fault with no won stuff. He's only one guy, and it's not his fault he's been chosen. He's a captain. Somebody picked him as captain, 3 different managers, so you can't put all the blame on him. Yeah, he's let us down at times, but he's dug us out a lot of holes as well. So wherever he goes, if he does go, good luck to him, and I think he's been a great servant for what we bought him for. But I do think he's probably stayed a year or two longer than he should have.
See what I would say about Tavernier, and I'm going to go against you a wee bit there, Kerr. I don't think as a character he's like and this is old school stuff, he's like a true winner. Like maybe it's a new age kind of nuance where a lot of these younger boys, I don't know younger, he's younger than me, so 10 years younger, but it's about playing football and they plod about. Whereas if you go back to my days, it was somebody would grab you by the scruff of the neck. Like I'm talking true winners. I'm not sure Tav is a true winner. And that's maybe because he's not won much with us, but I'm just not sure that in that dressing room are people looking up to him and going, "Like, he's leading us into a battle here. He's the one that I want to follow. He's going to take us up the stairs and lift that trophy." I just don't know.
I agree with you, JD, but that's up to the manager to pick the captain, not up to the players. And as a three managers have said, he's my captain, so he's not going to turn around and say, "Listen, I don't want this to get to somebody else." Do you know that way? So the managers have got to have a bit of backbone and say, "No, I'll get to somebody else." And personally, I think it should go to Jack Butland myself, but that's just my opinion. I don't think there's a lot of guys in the Rangers side at this moment in time you can look back and say there's somebody like that, because football has changed, and I know what you mean by somebody. We made a team years ago full of guys who would pull you out of trenches. I mean, come back to like Ian Ferguson, Stuart McCall. They two guys are leaders in themselves in the middle of the park. But we've not really got that type of player because football has changed. So I don't really know. Just before we change the subject there, Dave, I'm going to say, we were talking about Jack Butland there, I mentioned him, but I was speaking to somebody the other day about this and I heard it as well. See if you get an offer for Butland, say 10, 15 million, would you sell him? Even though he's a very important team player, and I just said he should be captain, but to give Clement the funds to rebuild this side?
On the basis of what I saw since the England speculation, I think if there's a fair offer for Jack Butland, we need to look at the bigger picture, because Jack Butland's 31. By the end of this season, he'll be 32. So if we're offered, and I'm being realistic here, and everybody will say I'm selling him too short, but if there's anything in the bracket between 8 and 15 million pounds for me, 8 being the lowest that I would sort of start the conversation at, and 15 being ultimately what I really want for him, I think that's a conversation we need to have. We need 2 players for every position, and as far as I'm convinced, we're short of it. I'm not including guys like Ben Davis in that 2 players for every position, because that's a guy you need to ship out. He's been here the best part of 2.5 years, and for 2 years he's sat and done absolutely nothing and picked up in excess of 30 grand a week, you know, scratching his balls, for a better phrase. And I don't want that for Rangers players. I want it refreshed. I think we need guys competing for jerseys. Whatever happened to that? We grew up in Walter Smith sides where, you know, Stephen Whittaker was your right back, and Kurt Broadfoot was the guy challenging him, and Kurt Broadfoot managed to get himself in the team at times. You take it back, you had guys like Alec Cleland and Gary Boland fighting positions. Davy Robertson was there, you know, Craig Moore was the young guy trying to come in. Whatever happened to competition for places? We don't have that. We have a starting lineup, and then see if you're no there in the starting lineup, it's a free-for-all who gets in thereafter. It's like one of the lucky dips. And for Rangers, that's no good enough. You can't sustain that going forward. Look at our rivals across the city. They've got enough squad depth that if one drops out, they've got sufficient quality. James Forrest was written off for a lot of last season and then come in and probably helped them get that title because they had that squad depth. We don't have that, and I think that's the biggest failure at the club so far. JD, what's your take on that?
Can you hear me all right?
Aye.
The Jack Butland thing, no for me. I think when it comes to goalies, people, I'm not saying yours, but I'm saying everybody in general, quickly forget how many games he saved us. See, for every game that Tav pulled us out the hat, Jack Butland saved us double that. We would have been nowhere near the league last year. And he never made a mistake until near the end of the season. And then he's had 1 or 2 in pre-season. That's what happens with goalies. You make mistakes. But what I get is he is coming up for 32. For me, 10 million's a conversation, nothing less. I would want 15 from. See, to be honest, the worry you have is that 15 million, right? How do you replace him? Liam Kelly isn't even good enough to be our number 2, and I don't care what MD says. I've watched him enough. He's not good enough for me, but he's my number 2. We probably get better. I think we let go of a better keeper than we go in anyway. What do you need to spend to replace Jack Butland? Now, by the way, we've seen Celtic try to do it 1 year where they brought in a boy Benny Horns and they paid $5 million for him. So you're taking a massive risk here by doing that. And is it worth the money you're going to gain? No, you get 10 million for Butland. You're going to need 5 at least to replace him. So it only gives you 5 to get back into the squad, which is still decent, by the way. But I'm not sure. Like, I just don't know. I wouldn't. Honestly, the money we can gain from keeping Jack Butland and him having a great season and us playing well is worth 30, 40 million.
JD, can I just ask you though? But is his recent performances, and when I say that, I'm dating it back to April last year. In terms of he has had a drop off, I don't think any of us can deny it. Is that a concern to you at all?
Slightly, aye. I was talking to my brother about it the other day, and he's like, "I've got a sneaky feeling Jack Butland's going to sell the jerseys this season." So I do know people feel that way, but I do also think that keepers make mistakes, and because Jack Butland didn't make a mistake for like fucking 7 months, as soon as he made a few, see if the mistakes for April onwards were spread out the season, nobody would say a word about it. But I agree. His form has dropped off a wee bit, but I couldn't sell. We can't sell him now. You can't sell him. Who do you bring in? If somebody wants to sell him, you want 10 million, Davey? I want to know who you're bringing in.
No, I don't have the answer for you because I said there was paper talk during the summer that we were looking at that guy Bogart for the Belgian league, but that's the guy that came our roof, scored the goal for his own half. So would that make you feel comfortable that you're signing a keeper that lost a goal like that? I don't subscribe to that. For me, that was just paper talk. But if I can turn the attention to the Mora, we play Hearts at Tynecastle. They finished third last year. There's always that added spice to the game because Stephen Naismith is their manager, and the way he conducted himself when he, left the club at a difficult time for us. We look at Hearts in terms of how they've played. They're a bit like us in terms of they've not had the best pre-season care. We obviously know Xander Clark very well, and I don't think he can be, disappointed with how he performed for Hearts last season. He was certainly one of their big performances, especially in the second half of last season. But they tend to line up, or they have been lining up 4-2-3-1. They've made some interesting signings in regards to Blair Spittle, who was a player that impressed me at Motherwell last season. The one thing that worries me, obviously, they brought Danda in, and he was a big part of that Ross County game that turned us over. They do have the pace of Alan Forrest down the left-hand side. For me, I think the one worry I do have, obviously, they've got the obvious Shankland, is that Tav is going to be isolated tomorrow, and that's how they're going to look to exploit us. So what's your take on that? Do you think Hearts are tough opposition for tomorrow?
I think they will be tough opposition. They're starting the first game of the season at home. They've been looked at our pre-season and thought we can have a go at Rangers, but I think also we can have a go at them. I don't think they're great at the back. I know they've got a cut, they've got legs in the middle of the park, but I don't think they've got a bit of steel there. They've got Cammy Devlin. I don't know if he'll start. He likes a tackle, usually a bad tackle, but he does like a tackle. But I think they're missing a wee bit of dig, and their defence is like yours. It's not the greatest at the moment. So I think it could be a few goals in this game. And it's just, I think whoever makes the most least mistakes tomorrow will win it, because I don't think they've started the pre-season well. We've not started well, but tomorrow it's different. It's a different game altogether because you're playing with a bit of pressure now with a pre-season. You may be trying things, you're not going full pelt and stuff. And tomorrow's totally different. So I think Hearts will line up attacking-wise. I think it will come to us. And I want them to do that because I think if they do, they'll leave us gaps that we can plenty, because the goals we scored last week, yes, it was pre-season, but some of the link-up play was really good going forward. It's just defensively, and if Proper does play, I think he'll maybe be a difference for us. I think he does look a quality signing, especially for the money, and he's experienced, but he reads a game very well, and he can come out a defence with the ball at his feet. He looks comfortable in it. He can pick a pass. Plus, he's also a goal threat. So it'll be interesting, David. It depends on the starting lineup. Once the starting lineup comes through, I'll probably message you and say I'm shitting myself, but yeah, I think it'll be a decent game. I just hope we come out with 3 points.
JD, obviously Hearts tomorrow, first game away from home. Last year we were away at Rugby Park and it didn't go well for us. What do you think tomorrow? Do you think our squad as it sits is currently good enough? And can I throw a wee curveball into you? not a lot's been said about this guy. The question was asked to Clement today in regards to Igamane, and he says he's just doing one-to-one training, but he was gave the number 29. And the last time a striker wore the number 29 for us was Daniel Kuzan, and he didn't do too bad. So are you expecting anything for Igamane, and do you think he might be the wee curveball that provides us that wee bit of inspiration this season?
No. I was speaking to Kerr before we came on. I was like, the thing that I'm going to come back to your point about Hearts, but the thing about Igamane is, what do we pay? 1.7, 1.8 or something for this lad? No, they must have seen something. But I can't believe we've paid that kind of money. And Clement's come out and said he's not even ready to train with the first team because he's never trained at that level. What? Is that playing amateur football? How long is that going to take this boy to get up to speed then? So who's he training with? He's actually training with himself because he's not even good enough to train with the B team. Very worrying, very worrying. I do like his squad number. That is a fair shout. Come back to the Hearts thing. See that random supercomputer doesn't do us any favours at the start of the season, didn't it? No, Rugby Park now, Tynecastle. Aye, cheers for that. That's a belter. But I'm not worried. I'm a little, but I think we'll get a result tomorrow. I think the big Nigerian nightmare will get us a goal. I think we Connor Barron will put himself about, and I think we'll sneak it. They are due to beat us, by the way, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I think we should just have enough.
Just have enough. Well, what's your take in the comments? We're just going to round things off by going in depth in terms of your predictions. So please get your predictions in, your scorer, first goal scorer and match score, and we'll bring the best of them up along the bottom of the screen. Kerr, JD is sort of, 50-50, can see that we might win it, but there is the obvious fear. What's your take on it? Is there enough about the squad to go into this game with no fear? You've harped on about us not having a bad record at Tynecastle. We seem to do pretty well. JD's saying there that we're maybe due one for Hearts. Do you think the Mora will come out unscathed?
Hopefully, Davey. I'm not going to put my hat on it. I don't want to lose my heart right enough, but hopefully we do. I think we'll go there and I think we'll try and attack them. I think Hearts will try and attack us. I think there'll be a lot of goals. I think we will win 3-2, but I think Hearts will score first.
So that's a 3-2 for Kerr with Hearts scoring first, JD. Can you top that?
Wow. I put a wee bet builder. Listen, gamble responsibly. I put a wee bet builder on. Dessers will score. Barron will get booked. Shankland will have a shot on target. I couldn't put goal. I just couldn't, but I can see it be 2-1. I can see it be 2-1. Rangers.
Well, I'm going to go Rangers 2, Hearts 0. John Suter to score for a corner. So we've not been working on set pieces before, but I just thought that's what I'm going to go with. So before we finish up, I just want to touch on what we're going to be doing on the podcast through the rest of the season. So we have got involved in the SPFL fantasy football for the remainder of the season. So if you head to Gaffer, so that's gaffr.io/register and search for Not Another Rangers podcast under the SPFL season, we are going to be hosting our own fantasy football league, and every month, if you're top of that leaderboard, you will win on behalf of this podcast a case of whatever you drink. So if you drink lager, that'll be 24 lager. The competition is open to the guys that appear on the podcast as well. So it's not just the fans, everybody's involved. And at the end of the year, the podcast will pay the eventual winner £100 cash. So please get involved in that. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. But to prove that you are indeed involved, you have to subscribe to the podcast. And of course, you must be a Rangers fan. So that is the John Bennett caveat for this show. So,
David, just say if you're going to subscribe to the podcast, you have to prove it and send it to our Twitter page. Shows that you are subscribed, and you can, if you know you're subscribed and you're top of the league or you finished the season with a winner, then
I will say
he'll send you the cash.
Davey, my wife will not be happy with you sending me a case every month. Actually wipe the flair with every single person in here on fantasy.
Well, I must say, I would normally say
win a one-team league.
It's Rangers fans only, but we will make an exception for Wolfenstein because he's a friend of the show, a good Heart supporter. We are playing tomorrow, so it's every Rangers fan involved and Wolfenstein. So just before we go, then, Kerr, when we next on, do you know? We're going to do a weekend roundup on Monday.
Sunday, if you're free Sunday.
Right, so we'll be on either Sunday or Monday. But make sure, again, you like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. And just before we go, I'm going to leave you with the immortal words of Bill Struth. I am never happier when the outside world has beaten us before a ball is kicked. For then I know the true greatness of our club will be revealed. And all will be revealed tomorrow. See you at Tynecastle. It's good night for me, and it's good night for them.